Hi all. Now this is the final rivers video, so the final rivers features that we're going to be looking at, and the last 1/2 that we have are levees and floodplains. Now I've mentioned floodplains second here, but I'll deal with them first because they're pretty self-explanatory. Now a floodplain is the kind of large area either side of the banks of a river where it regularly floods. I mean, it really is that simple. You won't often be asked to explain how the floodplain of a river forms, but it's useful to understand what it is. Now, a levee, on the other hand, is a feature that can form alongside the banks of a river on the lower course, and it's very intrinsically linked to the floodplain itself. So, to start us up, if we think about this is a cross-section of a river before it floods. So it's just flowing down through its valley, nothing much is happening, all the material that it's taking with it is flowing inside the river channel. Then the river floods. So as it floods, the water level obviously rises, and some of the material that the river was carrying is now going to start to get deposited across the floodplain. Now, the largest, heaviest bits of material are the most difficult to transport, so they go the shortest distance. And they get deposited here, along the edges of the river itself. And the smaller material, particularly the stuff that's in suspension, gets deposited out further, and it makes what we refer to as floodplain deposits. So right here, but we've got our nice kind of big coarse-grained material, pebble-sized rocks, etc., that are going to form along the banks of the river on both sides. What's going to happen next? After the river level is going to go down, and that process is going to repeat itself again and again and again. Rivers flood naturally, and they will flood again and again, and we're going to keep getting more and more material deposited on the banks of the river, and these are our levees. What it forms is like a natural wall that runs along the banks of the river. So what it also does is it means that when the river goes to flood next, it's actually harder for the river to flood because we've got this natural bank that's been formed, and it means that it's going to be harder for the water to spill over it. It's also why you sometimes find man-made levees, where it's exactly the same thing, where along the banks of the river we build walls, but of course in the case of them being man-made, it's concrete and it's not river deposits that we use. And they're there for the same purpose, to try to stop the river flooding as easily. Now, this has been the last in our rivers videos, so I hope these have been useful. You can obviously go over any of these videos whenever you want to, and it's worth remembering that this, like the rest, particularly with levees, could be an exam question. You need to be able to understand how these features formed, reproduce a written answer that explains what's happened, and alongside that written answer, you should have a series of annotated diagrams that also explains how the features formed. Hopefully these are useful, and I'll be back with the next topic of videos very soon. I'll catch up with you later, guys. Bye.